Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Gemar Chatima Tova. If you haven't already and you have a talit with you, now is the time to rise and say the bracha for putting on a talit. The idea being that even though we will at some point leave tonight and go to sleep, that Yom Kippur is one long experience, and since we'll have a talit on tomorrow morning, we start with one on tonight. Always a remarkable thing to witness, a group of Jews in the evening wrapped in their talit. So if you haven't done so yet, now is the right time. We'll begin with a few opening words from Cantor Chorney.
A poem about regrets from Wendy Vidlock. The title of the poem is I Have Been Counting My Regrets. I have been counting my regrets. Bacon, Facebook, cigarettes, anger, bluster, laziness, fearfulness, indifference, stupid bets, things that should not be confessed. I'm still not dead. It should be said. I haven't finished counting yet. To live each day as though it were our last. Specifically, to live each day as if it were our last opportunity for teshuvah, to return, to repent. This is what our sages teach. Repent one day before you die. And since our mortality is an enduring mystery, we are moved to make amends every day, just in case. Yom Kippur is a day of judgment. It is also a day of great unburdening. We release ourselves of vows unfulfilled and promises not kept. We relieve ourselves of the responsibility to eat, to drink, to work, to be anything but engaged in prayer and reflection. We take little in and we pour our hearts out. In our white kittles, we walk through the motions of the day in an unearthly, almost ghoulish pall of impermanence. Ma'anu mechayenu. Who are we? What even are we? And yet we are so very alive. We are filled with the breath of living creatures, nishmat kol chai, taking in a sense of community and cohort, letting go of our confessions, our grudges, our regrets. Our hearts beat in time with the ticking clock that tells us we are here and we will not always be here. So we seize each moment as a gift of time. It has not run out. This Yom Kippur, I bend in apology and sigh in contrition, watching the noble heavens shift as I trust that I will awaken the next day and the next to live and to err and to apologize and to begin all over again. I promise to live to regret what I have done. And I promise to return again, humbly walking the earth, fallible and forgiven, stumbling but persistent. I promise to live to regret what I have done, and then I will live some more.
Turn in your machzor to the beginning of the Kol Nidre section on page 204. We rise as the ark is opened and the Sifrei Torah are removed. Rabbi Chorny will begin the opening lines and then the actual paragraphs of Kol Nidre. Dutch.
Shiva shel mala, Shiva shel mata, Haladat amako, Vildat akol, Anu matirin litpaleu, Im havaryanim, Vishiva shel mala, Vishiva shel mata, Halidat amakom, Vildat הקהל, אנו מתירים להתפלל עם עבריינים, בישיבה של מעלה ובשיבה של מטה, על דעת המקום ועל דעת הקהל, אנו מתירים להתפלל עם עבריינים.
205.
Kol Nidre v'yisorei v'charamei v'konamei v'chinuyei v'kinusei Shvuot Dine Darna Udehishtabana Udehacharimna Litasarna Al-Nafshatana Yom Kippurim Ad Yom Kippurim Aleinu Litova Kulihon Icharat Navehon Kulihon Yehon Sharan Shivikin Shivitin B'tilin u'mevutalin Lasharirin V'lakayomin Nidrana la nidre V'hei sayrana la esari U'shavuotana la Shavuot. וחרמי וקונמי וכינויי וכינוסי ושבועות דין דרנה ודשתבנה ודהחרימנה ותעשרנה על נפשתנה מיום כיפורים זה עד יום כיפורים הבא עלינו לטובה כולי הון איחרת נעלהון כולי הון יהון שרון שביעין שביעין בתהילין ומבוטלין לשרירין ולקיימין נדרנה נדרי la esari ushivu hatana la shivu
Can you hold another one? Do you mind holding a second for the second one? Oh, Betty. Here, take it.
Do you want to hold it together?
It's heavy. You can lean on here if you want.
How do I do that?
Just kind of lean against it.
I lean against
So you were right here last week.
about righty.
Put on your right shoulder. Cover by yourself.
Coming.
Take your right hand down here. Okay.
Thank you, Marshall. Marta. Kol Nidre, Kol Nidre, Kol Nidre, V'Yisarei, V'Charmei, V'Konamei, V'Chinuyei, V'Kinusei, U'Shavuot.
Din darna udehi ishtabana udiacharimna vedasana al nafshatana
Yom Kippurim zeh ad Yom Kippurim haba aleinu letova.
Kulhon icharat navahon, kulhon yahon sharan, shavikin, shavitin.
V'teilin u'mevutalin l'asherin v'lakayamin
Nidrana la nidre Viesarana la esare
Hillary. Middle of page 205, we repeat this line 3 times after Cantor Chorney.
V'nislach l'kol adat b'nei Yisrael v'lagar hagdir hagar v'tocham ki l'kol am mepishkagam
ונשלח לכל עדת בני ישראל ולגר הגר בתוכם, כי לכל העם בשגגה.
v'nislach l'kol adat b'nei Yisrael v'lagar hagar v'tocham ki l'kol am mishkagam.
In English, the entire congregation of the people Israel shall be forgiven, as well as the stranger who dwells among them, for all have erred.
v'nislach l'kol adat b'nei Yisrael v'lager hagar b'tocham ki l'kol am v'ishkagam
ונשלח לכל עדת בני ישראל ולגר הגר בתוכם, כי לכל העם בשגגה.
סלחנה לעוונם הזה כגודל חסדך וכאשר נצאת לעם הזה ממצרים תעננה ושם נאמר ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך
ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך.
ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך
ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך.
ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך
ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
The scrolls are returned to the ark. May be seated. If you're sitting next to an open seat or two, please raise your hand so that people who are looking for a seat know that there are plenty. There are at least 30, 40 seats. So if you're looking for a seat, we're not in a rush. We're not headed home for dinner. So we'll happily wait to make sure everyone has a chance to sit. So good evening, everyone. Erev Tov, Gemar Tov. If you still had any questions about whether or not God works in mysterious ways, just before Kol Nidre, Marshall Temkin pointed out to me that if you turn in your Machzor to page 62, the first word is hallelujah. And if you don't get that reference, talk to me afterwards. So should we talk about what to eat again? Too soon? I might reference at some point in this sermon when to eat, but not the what. But to begin with, let's talk about suffering a little bit. Suffering is brutal. That's obvious. No one would wish it on even most of our enemies. But all suffering? I'm not so sure. It turns out that psychologists and neuroscientists mostly agree that not all suffering is equal. Not even the same amount of empirical pain is equal. It depends on the circumstances. Imagine, for instance, you are on a long-haul flight. The person next to you falls asleep, leaning on your arm. For hours, you're in pain as your arm cramps and blood flow is stemmed, and as you second-guess yourself as to how rude it would be to elbow that person in the gut to free your limb. Now quantify that pain and suffering in your head, almost try to give it a number. And now transfer the same amount of pain to a different situation. You're on a long-haul flight with your infant child. You would do anything to get her to sleep. You rock her in the crook of your arm back and forth for a long time. And eventually she's asleep. And you wouldn't dare move a muscle. You don't want anyone on the plane to even breathe. As the minutes go by, the ache in your arm increases. The physical part of it is actual discomfort, maybe even a little bit of suffering, but emotionally, you are aglow. You got your kid to sleep. She'll be in a better mood when you land. You are the parent of the year, or at least of the flight. It turns out that our experience of pain and suffering has much to do with whether it was imposed upon us, that's terrible, or whether we've chosen it. That's noble. From an anthropological look at human beings, we can not only tolerate some minor, temporary, chosen suffering, we might need it. While we are organisms who want and crave and desire, from an evolutionary perspective, we thrive in lack in resisting some cravings and in stemming some desires. Dr. Mark Mattson, a neuroscientist at Johns Hopkins and the National Institute on Aging, says that, quote, if you think evolutionarily, predators in the wild fight for prey in the fasting state and are better at recovering from inevitable injuries. The human counterpart, people who evolved in feast or famine environments, they would not have survived from an evolutionary angle unless they were somehow protected by that fasting. He goes on to say, our human ancestors did not consume 3 regularly spaced large meals plus snacks every day. Most, if not all, of the organ systems in our bodies respond to intermittent lack in ways that enable the organism to tolerate and overcome challenge and then return to normal on a cellular level. This is eye-opening, both practically and metaphorically. Living with lack and experiencing temporary, chosen suffering can be good for us in many ways. Now, I'm not romanticizing, God forbid, chronic hunger, nor a life of asceticism. But the notion of choosing frequently within a greater context of getting most of our needs met, choosing to go without, to forego, to suffer a little bit, that speaks to me. Choosing to divert urges and to intentionally experience even a little hunger without feeding it instantly, to help your cells rebound as they are evolutionarily trained to do, that might make life both longer and better. Now, Judaism, of course, has plenty of experience with suffering. Hence, one of the most important words in our entire tradition, oy. But it also has a lot to say about suffering, including suffering you choose. In Tractate Brachot in the Talmud, the rabbis do some wordplay, which I don't want to get into right now, but they create an association between a brit, a covenant of salt, melach, and a brit, a covenant of yisurin, suffering. And the Talmud states, just as a little bit of salt brings out the flavor of the meat, or the seitan, last year, so too, a little bit of suffering can actually sweeten life and make it taste better. Now, the rabbis did not know neuroscience. They weren't speaking of evolution or of how the mitochondria in your cells thrive when not fed all the time, nor were they talking about suffering that wallops you, unbidden. They were saying that when we intentionally salt that beef to bring out its taste, so too we should intentionally salt our lives. Go without some sweetness. Live proactively with some want, some lack. Life may be sweeter as a result. Now, taken to an extreme, this is dangerous. We are living in an era in which self-harm has proliferated. I want to make it clear, in case it was not already, that nothing in Jewish wisdom or medical wisdom suggests or even permits egregious self-harm or egregious and extended living without. In fact, the Russianer Rabbi, Rabbi Yisrael Friedman, who was a Hasidic sage in Ukraine and Austria in the early 19th century, he made such a comment specifically on that Talmud text I quoted before. Too much salt, he reminds us, ruins meat, and too much suffering can ruin a person. But a little bit, chosen, calculated, limited, for a noble purpose, that kind of elected discomfort can feel good to us and can actually be good for us. What would our lives look like if we didn't just attempt to avoid suffering or endure it when it lands on us, but beckon it a bit, to enjoy the pain of the child sleeping on our arm, or the relief in cryotherapy, which is not itself comfortable in the moment, or the pounding the masseuse does on our aching muscles. It is weird and wonderful that it feels better the more that massage hurts. It felt so amazing, I did it twice. That was the opening lines of a Facebook post that a colleague wrote last January. About what? About a polar plunge, diving into frigid waters in January on the East Coast. He continued, I thought of my ancestors in the old country who would break through the ice to immerse themselves in the mikveh, and Native Americans who would bathe themselves and their babies in rivers and lakes every day of the year. Many studies have actually shown how cold plunges, fantastically uncomfortable in the moment, have many benefits. Even occasional and short plunges in very cold water have been shown to ameliorate bouts of depression, brain health, pain management, longevity, athletic performance, immune health, and mood. All of these seem to benefit from the occasional exposure to profound discomfort. Now, this type of chosen, manageable pain and discomfort has a name. It is called hormetic stress. Hormetic stress. One paper in the journal Aging Research Reviews said it this way: underexposure to stress could leave your body unchallenged, while overexposure could lead to health problems. Hormetic stress is that sweet spot where stress could be beneficial. A little bit of good hormetic stress helps mitigate the toxic effects of all the bad stress, the stuff you don't choose and that you wish would just go away. Now, the word itself, hormetic, from the noun hormesis, is fascinating. It comes from the same Greek root that produces the word hormone. What's a hormone? It's a catalyst. It's something that makes things move. It helps get things unstuck. Hormesis in Greek means rapid motion or eagerness. When we proactively and enthusiastically choose certain stressors, certain true discomforts, we can awaken our bodies, our minds, and our spirits. Now, I know this notion is counterintuitive. Isn't it better always to have plenty rather than lack? We want more access, more food in our cabinets, more bandwidth, more screens, more streaming subscriptions, more Marriott points, more Delta status, more words in this sermon. More. I think some of that more is making us more unhappy, more of being in a mode of wanting more envious, more exhausted on the race to nowhere. Maybe we need to start speaking the truth of less. Less stuff, sure, because we all know where it's going eventually, but also less pleasure, less instant gratification, more chosen hormetic suffering. My dear friend and colleague, Rabbi Ed Feinstein, who's probably spinning out a delightful sermon this very moment 10 miles north of us, wrote a wonderful story based on a rabbinic midrash exploring the inner mind of people we know of as Adam and Eve. He imagines this young couple, after expulsion from paradise and after years of working together under duress in that little pocket east of Eden, exploring the world. They had learned to till the soil. No one taught them how to do it. They had invented child rearing, and we know how hard their kids were. And now it's time to take in the wider beauty of God's world. They stood on great mountains. They walked amid grand forests. They trekked vast deserts and traversed the magnificent sea. And one day, in their journeys, they happened upon a place that looked familiar, but they couldn't place it. An angel guarding the entrance suddenly disappeared. And then they heard God's voice. which they had not heard since they had been sent out from the place to which they now had accidentally returned, the Garden of Eden. God said to them, "You have wandered, my children. You've suffered. You have toiled. Your punishment is complete. Come back home. Come back to the garden." Adam and Eve hesitated. They had grown shrewd and even a little suspicious over the years. Eve asked, "Can I talk to your supervisor?" And God was like, "I don't have a supervisor, I'm God." And they asked, "It has been so long, remind us, what is this garden like?" God replied, "It is majestic. It's free of pain and loss and want and even work. It's a perfect paradise." Adam and Eve considered God's response an invitation. It seemed tempting. No struggle, no pain, no suffering, an endless life of ease. And then Adam turned to look at Eve, his wife. He looked into the face of the woman with whom he had struggled to make a life, to take bread from the earth, to raise children, to build a home. He read in the lines of her face all the tragedies they had overcome. He saw in her eyes both the laughter they had shared and the tears. And Eve looked into Adam's face. She saw all the moments that formed their lives, jubilant celebration, yes, but also unbearable pain. She remembered the moments of life-changing crisis, of when they chose not the easy path, but the worthy one together. She remembered flat tires and Wi-Fi down and combing out head lice. And as all their shared memories came back to her, she took Adam's hand in hers. Looking into his wife's eyes, Adam shook his head, and they both responded to God's invitation to paradise with the following words: "No, thank you." And Adam and Eve turned their backs on God's perfections and walked home. We live in that home to which Adam and Eve chose to return. We are meant to. It's the only true reality. And to wish otherwise is to be deluded. And to even aim for such a suffering-free life might actually lead to more travail, not less. Sometimes it is right within limits in the context of and towards an otherwise healthy and balanced life to walk towards hormetic suffering, to choose it temporarily, to embrace the pain on the path towards meaning and nobility. Rabbi Yehuda Alter Leib, who's also known as the Sfat Emet, who was one of the rabbis of the Gera Hasidic dynasty outside Warsaw, he compares all suffering to birth pangs. Within the very suffering lies the possibility of rebirth and renewal. Now, part of this insight was autobiographical, because this rabbi suffered mightily in his life, particularly as a child, when he lived with true deprivation on a level that most of us cannot really fathom. Yet even through his suffering, he found a way to draw strength and resilience. But I believe his insight applies forward, not just backward. Not just how to squeeze lemonade out of the sour lemons that were dumped on you, but how to know which sour lemons, which moments of lack, which non-fulfillment of our urges, which intentional discomfort, which mighty challenges are the very ones we should choose to live better and perhaps even to live longer. A rabbi from the Mishnah with one of the greatest names ever, he was called Ben Hehe. That is not a name you hear a lot of brisses these days. He teaches us in Pirkei Avot, Lefum Tsara Agra. Literally in Aramaic, it means the reward is directly related to the labor, the suffering. This is the Talmud's version of no pain, no gain. Now that slogan, no pain, no gain, appears in many gyms, helping people to be bodybuilders. To the rabbis, this notion was helping someone be a soul builder, a life builder. And in his commentary on the Mishnah, the Rambam, Maimonides, applies this very idea to study, and to Torah study in particular. Now, I'll warn you, he overdoes it a little bit, but I think he's onto something. He wrote, "Only that which you study with exertion, with labor and fear from the teacher will endure. But reading of enjoyment and leisure has no endurance to it, and so has no point." Now, I like reading for pleasure, and I'm sure you do as well. And it means something different in our culture than in 12th century Morocco and Spain. But I take the Rambam to heart. It is the very study one does with travail, with effort, that seems nearly intolerable in the moment, with self-sacrifice. Those are the studies that earn us degrees, open up doors to life, and fill us with wisdom that can enhance life. Sometimes it is right to choose suffering hormetically. And we confront these potentially hormetic choices all the time in life. Parents choose hardship the moment they choose to be parents. No single choice promises more hormetic suffering than the most elemental and noble one that most of us make in life. Before the next night of no sleep, the next time preparing to help your child with a painful social situation or their own sense of overwhelm, as we tense up and worry about the toll it takes on us to be that present and that giving to a child, remember the Ger Rebbe. Some chosen sufferings are sublime. And every bonded relationship with a spouse, with a partner, a parent, a dear friend, with a rabbi, they all come with pain. We want them to be perfect, but perfection is illusory and dangerous even to hope for. The next time some upcoming suffering or some living without or some emotional pain is looming in such a bond, how different would it be for you emotionally if you chose it, rushed towards it, plunged into those icy waters, searching for what might be awakened within them? During my focused attempt to learn to play guitar 5 years ago, my fingers became sore and calloused. The pain was real and got in the way of simple things such as buttoning buttons and opening mail. And at the attempt itself, I failed miserably. But I would choose that pain and that path again and again each time. It's the only possible way through. Every next hobby or skill or stage of relationship or learning of a new Jewish ritual that you take on, every new social encounter, professional task, and deep and honest engagement with yourself that you confront will come with some pain and suffering. Embrace it. Intermittent fasting and suffering is not just about food. It's about the trajectory towards growth and health and well-being. One of my dear colleagues tells the story of how his brother, who was a passionate ice skater, taught his own kids how to skate. He would say, "You are going to skate towards me, and I am going to push you down on the ice." They were 3 or 4 years old. And he was training them to skate towards what they knew would hurt, just a little bit. They would approach. He would mostly gently bop them down. And as they struggled and learned how to get up, he would remind them, "You cannot skate unless you are not afraid to fall." This is the way of the world. Limited, chosen suffering, such as the ache in your body post-vaccine, knowing your antibodies are being created, such as the underappreciated and elusive power of delayed gratification, notably borne out in the very famous marshmallow test, created by psychologist Walter Mischel at Stanford in the 1960s. If you're not familiar with it, in the original test, Mischel's team would present a child with a marshmallow and tell her that she could either eat the one treat immediately or wait alone in the room for several minutes until the researcher returned, at which point she could have 2 treats. The promised treats were always visible, and the child knew that all she had to do to stop the agonizing wait was ring a bell to call the experimenter back, and she would get a marshmallow in her mouth. Although in that case, she wouldn't get the second treat. What he found is that the longer a child delayed gratification, the longer that child was able to wait. Over years, and this was followed decades, the better she would fare later in life at numerous measures of what we now call executive functioning. She would perform better academically, earn a better income, be healthier and happier on many metrics. She would also be more likely to avoid a number of negative outcomes, including jail time and drug abuse. A temporary, intermittent fast, a chosen suffering, leading to lives lived better. Now, I can't believe I've gotten this far into this sermon on this day and not mentioned this day. Modern Yom Kippur has lots of rules and prayers and page numbers to call out. But in the Torah, the people of Israel were given exactly one commandment for this 10th day of Tishrei, for this day of atonement. Ta'anu et nafshotechem. Afflict yourselves. That's all we're asked to do. In modern Hebrew, nefesh, you might know, means soul or spirit. But in biblical Hebrew, it meant flesh and body. And both of those translations work, because the work we are asked to do on Yom Kippur is done through restraint and fasting more than intermittently, and from holding back, and from a bit of suffering, and more than a little discomfort to body and to soul. As we listen to hunger pangs, as we investigate the emptiness in our lives that can only be filled with tshuva, with repentance, with working hard to try better. Today, perhaps more than on all other days, but as an example for all other days, we choose suffering today. And I'd like to think that we all agree that we're better for it. As my dear friend Rabbi David Ingber said, deprivation is what builds the ego. There is no birth of the ego without absence. I end with what I consider to be a gorgeous poem by American poet Rosemary Watola Tromer. She named it The Way It Is, and it begins like this. Over and over we break open, we break and we break and we open. For a while we try to fix the vessel as if to be broken is bad, as if to be broken is not also perfect, as if to be open is not the path toward joy. Her title, The Way It Is so apt. As much as we may struggle with this being the way life is, we are better and we are happier once we accept it and embrace it and occasionally rush towards the pain. She continues, the vase that's been shattered and cracked will never hold water. Eventually, it will leak. And at some point, perhaps we decide that we're done with picking our flowers anyway and no longer need a place to contain them. We watch them grow just as wildflowers do, unfenced, unmanaged, blossoming only when they're ready. And my God, how beautiful they are amidst the mounting pile of shards. Break some vases and some vessels this year. Embrace fasts of all different types, for within those hungers is well-being. Find your polar plunges and choose your hormetic suffering. In other words, live. For this is the way life is. Shana Tova and Gemar Chatima Tova. I'm going to ask you to rise as Rabbi Chorny leads us in the Baruch Hu, beginning on page 207. After the Baruch Hu, we may be seated.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai המבורך לעולם ועד. מבהיר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה. אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני המריב הרבים. כי הם חיינו לאורך ימינו והם נהגה יומם ולילה ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. Adonai Elohechem mehemet emuna kuzov v'kayam. Malchuto beratzon gibelu Alehem Moshe uvnei Yisrael Lechanu shira V'sim lecharam V'yamiru kulam Nichamocha v'elim Adonai Nikamocha netar v'kodesh Nora tehilot ol sefer Malchutecha ra'umanecha V'keyam lifnei Moshe Zehili hainu v'yamiru Adonai imloch le'olam evahid V'nemar kifata Adonai et Yaakov ugelo miad chazak mimeinu Baruch atah Adonai gal Yisrael Shkivei Adonai Leinu Leshalom. U'shemor tziteinu vo'einu l'chaim u'shalom ve'atav yad olam u'fros aleinu sukat shalomecha Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom aleinu v'halei kol amo
Page 212, all rise.
Kiva yom hazeh yichaver lechem litaher etchem mikol chatotehem lifnei Adonai titaru yitkata shemei rabbah
Amen.
Milmad tiverak yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chaychon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaydechon beit Yisrael b'gala u'v'zman mikariv v'meru amin yehei shvei rabba mevorach li'olam Shabach, Vitmahar, Vitramam, Vitnasei, Vitadar, Vitalei, Vitala, Shemei Dekudesha, Berich, Leila, Mikol Berchata, Veshirata, Tushbechata,
Whispered Amidah for evening of Yom Kippur begins on page 213. If you're still davening, please continue at your own pace. We're going to continue on page 223. Sometimes an acrostic or a reverse acrostic is just cute, with the author trying to show prowess in finding enough vocabulary words in ascending or descending alphabetical order. And sometimes it's really artful, and sometimes both. The first three are particularly interesting. This is a piyuta poem that tries to describe all the range of emotions that one might experience on Yom Kippur. Yaleh tachanunenu mi'erev, may our tachanun, our supplication, our pleading, beginning with the last letter of the alphabet Taf, start tonight at night. Ve'avo shavatenu miboker, may our cries of despair or anguish or confusion come in the morning. Ve'yera'eh rinunenu ad arev, and may our joy, may our delight be approaching already by tomorrow night. It can trace the emotions not only of a day of Yom Kippur, but as I discussed this week at a Shiva, also the stages of grief, where it's first a pleading, a tachanun, hoping that the news is not real, a shav'ah, a crying out of great anguish at a loss, and then eventually navigating a life back towards a life of rina, of joy. The question is, can we enter any of that emotional space truly on Yom Kippur? Can we actually wonder if something is hanging in the balance? Can we really feel tonight that we're pleading with God? Can we wake up tomorrow morning with a bit of a broken heart, a bit in distress at the year that we have completed and what is our task for the upcoming year? And then by the final shofar blast, can we really exult that we've made it, and we've made some decisions, and we've made some internal commitments, and we're ready for the year? Yaleh will do the first few paragraphs, and then the last two, page 223. Yaleh tachanunenu me'erev, ve'yavo shavatenu miboker, ve'yera'eh rinunenu ad arev, ve'yera'eh rinunenu ad arev. Ya'aleh, ya'aleh kolenu me'erev, ve'yavo tzidkatenu miboker, ve'yera'eh Pidyoneinu ad Arev Ve'yerav Pidyoneinu ad Arev Ya'ale Ya'ale Inuyenu Me'erev Ve'yavo Slichatenu Miboker Ve'yera Enakatenu ad Arev Ve'yera Enakatenu ad Arev Ya'ale Ya'ale Dovkeinu. Last two. Me'erev. 5 lines from the bottom. Ve'yavo Gileinu Miboker Ve'yera Bakashatenu ad Arev Ve'yera Bakashatenu ad Arev Ya'ale Ya'ale En Katenu Me'erev Ve'yavo Eilecha Miboker Ve'yera Eleinu ad Arev Ve'yera Eleinu ad Arev. Page 225. We turn to the middle of 226 as we anticipate the first recitation on Yom Kippur of the Yud Gimel Midot, the 13 attributes of God.
Tavur al peshav timchei hasham Geyom behichatsev imosham Tazin shavatenu v'takshiv meinu masar Ki yom v'yikra v'shem Adonai.
All rise.
Vayavor Adonai al panav v'yikra Adonai, Adonai El Rachum v'chainun Erich hapayim V'rav chesed v'emet Notzer chesed la'alafim Nosei avon b'fesha v'chata v'nakeh V'salakta l'avonaynu U'l'chatateinu U'l'chaltainu Salak lanu avinu ki chatanu Michalanu Malkeinu ki vashanu Yet Adonai tov v'salach V'rav chesed l'chol korecha.
We move to another poem, another piyut, page 227, also getting us into the image of the day of our being formed and reliant on and vulnerable to God, and also very responsive to God's presence and God's touch. You may be seated for this one. We'll do the first 2 paragraphs and then the last one.
Ki hinei kacha Vayomer v'yad hayotzer V'irtzoto marchiv U'irtzoto mikatzer Kein anachnu biyadecha Chesed noter Labrit habeit Ve'al tefen la'yetzer Hine ka'even B'yad ha'misateit V'irtzoto ches U'v'irtzoto mechateit Kein anachnu biyadecha Mechaye u'memotet Labrit habeit Ve'al tefen la'yetzer. Last verse. Ki hine ka'kesef B'yad hatzorev Birtzoto mitzagseg U'birtzoto mitzarev Kein anachnu biyadecha Mamsilim mazor teref Labrit habeit Ve'al tefen la'yetzer. 229, once again, the 13 attributes of God. All rise. El horita lanu lomar shalosh esrei zechor lanu iho berit shalosh esrei shkemo shehodata leinav mikedev kemo shekatuv vayered Adonai be'anav vayitshot sevimo sham vayikra v'shem Adonai vayavor Adonai al panav vayikra Adonai, Adonai, Eli Rachum B'chanun Eret Apayim V'Rav Chesed V'Emet Notzer Chesed L'Alafim Nosei Avon Nefesha V'Chata V'salachta lavuneinu U'chatateinu N'chaltanu Salach lanu Avinu ki chatanu Mechalanu Alkinu ki fashanu Yet Adonai tov v'salach V'rav chesed L'chol korecha. Please remain standing, bottom of 232, as we anticipate the Shema Kolenu prayer on the next page. Slachna lavona mazeh ki godel chastecha v'kasher nasata lam hazeh mimitzrayim v'yadheina v'sham nehemar vayomer Adonai salachti ki dvarecha. 233, the ark is opened. Each of these 4 lines in bold we repeat after Cantor Chorny sings them. One of them will actually sing together. The second of the 2 lines, actually the third line in bold, will sing together. Shema Kolenu Adonai Eloheinu Chus v'rachem aleinu v'kapel v'rachamim u'ratzon et tefilatenu. Shema kolenu Adonai Eloheinu chus v'rachem aleinu v'kapel v'rachamim u'ratzon et tefilatenu. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva
כקדם.
השיבנו, השיבנו,
השיבנו, אדוני אליך ונשובה. חדש ימינו כקדם. חדש, חדש, חדש ימינו כקדם. חדש, חדש, חדש ימינו כקדם. חדש, חדש, חדש ימינו כקדם.
אל תשליכנו מלפניך ברוח קודשך, אל תיקח ממנו.
אל תשליכנו מלפניך ברוח קודשך, אל תיקח ממנו.
אל תשליכנו לתסכנה, ככלות כוחנו, אל תעזבנו.
אל תשליכנו לעת זקנה, ככלות כוחנו, אל תעזבנו. אל
Eloheinu, Eloi Avoteinu, אל תעזבנו ואל תתעשנו, ואל תחלימנו ואל תפר בריתך איתנו. קרבנו לתורתך, למדנו מצוותיך, הורינו דרכיך. את ליבנו ליראה את שמך, ומול את לבבינו לאהבתך. ונשוב אליך באמת ולב שלם, ולמען שמך הגדול תמחה, ותסלח לבוננו, ככתוב בדברי קודשך, למען שמך אדוני, וסלחת לבוני כי רבו.
234, you may be seated, but you're going to get up on the next page.
Eloheinu, Eloi Avoteinu, Salach lanu, Mechalaynu, Kaper lanu, Ki anu amecha, V'ata Eloheinu,
Hey, anu vanecha, ve'ata avinu, anu avadecha, ve'ata Adoneinu, anu kehalecha, ve'ata chelkeinu, anu nachlatecha, ve'ata goraleinu, anu tzonecha, ve'ata roeinu, anu charmecha, ve'ata notreinu, anu feulatecha, ve'ata yotzreinu, anu rayatecha, ve'ata doteinu, anu segulatecha, ve'ata keroveinu, anu amecha, ve'ata malkeinu, anu mamirecha, ata mamireinu.
Hanu azefanim yatarahu mechanu. Nanu kishay horef liatayri chapai. Manu malay havav liatam malay rachamim. Hanu yameinu gitzel over. V'ata ushnotecha lo hitamu Eloheinu, Eloi Avoteinu Tavon lefanecha tevilateinu V'yati talami t'chin mateinu Shein anachnu azeifanim Ukasheyoref lomar lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu Eloi Avoteinu Tzadikim anachnu V'lo chatanu aval anachnu v'avoteinu chatanu.
My friend and colleague, Rabbi Robert Scheinberg, you can rise if you want. You don't have to yet. Be half and half. He's a rabbi in New Jersey. I've known him for a very long time. He's a real expert in music and nusach, and he taught a class in his shul last year on the music of shul. Each holiday has distinct melodies, and each of those melodies communicates something unique about the day. At Yom Kippur, the paradigm melody that communicates the intensity of the day is Kol Nidre, which we sang just a little bit ago. It communicates, even in the music, a sense of severity, a heaviness, a gravitas, the opening descent. Oh, you can't hear that and not think that something heavy is going along. And the ups and the downs and the leaps and the climbs. Was that okay?
It was great.
Okay.
It was great. Yeah.
In Rabbi Scheinberg's words, this is an outlining of a dissonant chord that will eventually resolve into a major key. The music of Kol Nidre is unsettling, it's surprising, or at least it would be if it weren't so familiar to us. There's a certain solemnity to it. It makes us stand at attention. To Rabbi Scheinberg, there's one melody that stands out on Yom Kippur that is not like the other, the one we're about to do, Ashamnu. Now, we at Beth Am tend to slow it down in order for it to match the day, but how it's normally sung in many communities, a little bit quicker, it seems incongruous. We were awful, we were terrible, we did bad things. In his words, you would expect that the Ashamnu, in which we stand before God and before each other and declare that, in fact, we've been deeply imperfect this entire year, we've made error after error after error, we're upset and regretful, you would expect that this passage would be chanted to an intense, even a morose melody. Instead, what we have is maybe the most lovely and gentle melody of the entire Jewish year. If you sing it at the right pace, it's almost a lullaby. Ay, 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 ay. It's lulling us to sleep more than it's waking us up. It's a bit odd musically. Or maybe not at all. Maybe it's comforting us, reminding us what we know, that we've made mistakes, but ay, 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 we can fix them. Telling us if we approach others with the gentleness of ay, 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 we might be surprised at the ways they open up to us and that we open up to others. Now, everyone experiences music differently, and so maybe you experience this tune differently. Its music communicates different things to different people. But this year, after everything that we've been through and this world is still going through, I kind of need a lullaby that reminds me of the power of softness and the possibility of return. Ay, 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 ay. Gazalnu, Dibarnu, Zadnu, Hamasnu, Tafalnu, Sheker, Yatsnura, Kizabnu, Latsnu, Maradnu, Niatsnu, Sararnu, Avinu, Pashanu, Sararnu, Kishinu, Oref, Rashanu, Shichatnu, Tiavnu, Tahinu, Titanu.
Sarnami mitzvotecha, umishvotecha tovim v'lo shavalanu v'tat sati akol abahaleinu ki emet asita v'anavnu hirshanu.
Bottom of page 236. You know the mysteries of the universe, the deepest secrets of everyone alive. You probe our innermost thoughts, depths. You examine our thoughts and feelings. Nothing escapes you. Nothing is secret from you. Therefore, may it be your will, our God and God of our ancestors, to forgive us for all our sins, to pardon us for all our iniquities, and to grant us atonement for all our transgressions. Al-Khayt 237.
שחטאנו לפניך ביצר הרע, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך ביודעים ובלא יודעים, והייה לכולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו מחלנו כפר לנו. חטא שחטאנו לפניך בעיניים רמות, ואל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בעזות מצח, והייה לכולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו מחלנו כפר לנו. חטא שחטאנו לפניך בתשומת יד והחיים שחטאנו לפניך, ותמרור לבב. ויעל לכולם, אלוהי סליחות, סלח לנו מחלנו, כפר לנו, ועל כולם אלוהי סליחות, סלח לנו מחלנו, סלח לנו מחלנו, כפר לנו.
May be seated. And just before we go into yet another of the most evocative pieces of this liturgy, Avinu Malkeinu, where we pray to our parent and our ruler, I want to invite to the Bima Temple Beth Am's parent and ruler, our president, Mark Samuel, who already in the first few months of his term has not only shown himself to be a really excellent leader and president, but much more important than that, an exceptional mensch, an exceptional man. And I'm looking forward to his words and his message to us tonight. Mark.
Hope you don't mind make these adjustments. Thank you, Rabbi Kligfeld. Can everyone hear me? Great. Adon Olam Asher Ma'ala. Are you wondering if services are over? That would be the greatest president's Kol Nidre address to Temple Beth Am. But we're not finished with services this evening. We are just beginning. In fact, tonight, I want to focus on beginnings, as our theme for this year is Back to Basics. First, we are back together in this magnificent space and completely back. I want to ask you to take a look around, not at just the field, and not at just the children in the back. And as the former chair of the building committee, I am legally required to tell about all of our spaces. But I want you to take a look at each other. Say hello to your neighbor. You may be sitting next to someone that you've sat next to for the past hour, the past year, the past 5 years, 10 years. You may not have seen this member since the pandemic has begun. Shake their hand, give them a wave, a fist pump, or a hug, if they're inclined to do so, and they're comfortable with it. Go ahead. I'll wait a moment. Yes, more. I love this. This is our community. We are returning back to normalcy. Right here, being together, is the bedrock of Temple Beth Am. And there are many people who make this community work. That includes our rabbis, our educators, our administrators, our security staff, our board members, staff members, volunteers, facilities, and more. And for those who are rejoining us on Ziering Family Field after some time away, we want to welcome you. And we want to remind us all of the richness of what the temple offers. There is something for everyone here, and during this year of getting back to basics, which is also Rabbi Rebecca Schott's theme for the programming department, she has been hard at work at. I want to encourage you to participate in something you love. At the same time, I hope you will try something new. I will share that new thing that I wanted to try, which was attending Slichot services. the services of forgiveness that we say on Saturday night right before Rosh Hashanah. Despite always wanting to go, I've never done it. And this was the year for me. It was truly inspiring to watch the dressings of the Torah, switching the daily Torah covers from the daily ones to the white holiday ones. Seeing this physical transition was my transition into the Chagim. I am hoping to add some new activities for me as well, and I will be inspired to dig even deeper into the Jewish tradition and make something like Slichot my new basic. The menu of activities we offer here are incredible. There are, of course, the high holiday services and Friday night and Shabbat and morning minyanim, educational classes, and more. This year, we will grow and expand these offerings, including themed monthly Shabbat dinners, like BYOB Shabbat. And a couple of weeks ago, Let Us Cook for You. We had nearly 300 people at each event. I do want to give a special shout out to the 50th anniversary of our library minyan. It's our lay-led minyan, and it has been a national model for long congregations like ours. A minyan is a great model of how Judaism is and community-based, and we need 10 people to pray publicly. At the same time, each of us counts in making that commitment and making that number. I do want to take a moment of public thanks and gratitude to Michael Harris, who is there every day and every morning to make sure we have daily minyan. I know many of you on this field make this daily or frequent commitment. You motivate me to come to minyan more, and it will become another new basic for me too. This individual action that is acutely felt when we do acts of chesed or kindness, whether it's by coming to minyan to help someone say Kaddish or showing up to Shiva, especially for someone you do not know, I want to encourage you to make that a commitment this year and come to minyan. I promise you, your presence will make a difference. This year, we will continue our sisterhood groups and events. Our sisterhood is stronger than ever before and has programs for all ages, from walking, book clubs, mahjong, and more. This year, we plan on bringing back the men's society, and I'm hoping to bring back a poker night too. We will introduce cooking, grilling, baking, even have a sports group this year. Fortunately, this year, Yom Kippur does not fall while the Dodgers are in the playoffs, although they're playing tonight. Go Dodgers. We will dig. Sorry, Rabbi. Gotta forgive me.
Make a play.
I know. We will dig deeper into our Havarah programs together with small cohorts of families and individuals to have more intimate social and ritual events. We have a vibrant social action committee, and we have a number of events planned, including some in partnership with 1LA. We will learn together in greater numbers through adult education classes, including Rabbi Rembam's Basics of Jewish Life class. Later this month of October, we will have the inaugural Dr. Baruch Link Scholar-in-Residence weekend featuring writer Dorit Rabinian, whose tablet magazine called The Wonder Woman of the New Israeli Literature. We will take a trip to the Baltics, and a few more spaces are still available to go on a yoga and meditation retreat with Rabbi Kligfeld in Guatemala. Rabbi Matt Shapiro has been working hard with the Youth Learning and Engagement Committee, YLE, to ensure that our families feel connected to and inspired by our community. We are creating more spiritual Shabbat services where children pray with their parents, and for those exhausted parents out there, I may be one of them, even more meaningful childcare opportunities. I want our Pressman School families to know that there's more than just membership. that there's programming for every age group, from when that baby is born to when that baby goes off to college or leaves home. I do want to take a moment to recognize the incredible work of our executive director, Cheryl Goldman, whose responsibilities touch on so many aspects of our synagogue experience. She is involved in all the day-to-day of every part of our temple to make sure our temple and facility programs happen seamlessly without any interruption. Her presence is felt through our entire organization. Thank you. A special thank you to all of our greeters and staff members and volunteers who worked tirelessly on organizing the programs for these high holidays. We are very grateful. As for membership, we are increasing and we have met our goals for this year, though at the moment we are still increasing 1 million at a time. Keeping our community safe is a top priority for me and the institution. We recently had an active shooter drill. We have frequent meetings with our security task force, and we will be ensuring everyone that we will be doing everything we can to keep our community safe. We appreciate Ralph and the entire security team. I want to acknowledge our lay leadership. That includes our board, and to which we welcome 6 new board members, our vice presidents, past presidents, who do so much to support our staff. We are in very good hands. Under the leadership of Dr. Erica Rothblum, our head of school, Pressman Academy creates a warm, nurturing environment where our students are thriving while becoming mensches. Our enrollment is strong. We have 494 students in our from our ECC through our 8th grade, and our achievements are many. On the academic side, our Moot Beit Dean won 1st and 2nd and 4th place in the Southern California regional competition. 98% of our graduating class of 2022 was admitted to their first choice high school. We finished phase 2 of the Pressman Garden over the summer, and we are looking forward to our students learning in the garden while integrating science and Judaic studies. To honor our extraordinary teachers who have done so much to support our children during these difficult years, we are launching Pressman Academies, professional development for our day school staff, where educators can choose a year-long focus on professional development. We are, God willing, sending our entire middle school this year to Israel in December. We have 103 students going, 13 staff members, and Rabbi Kligfeld is leading the parent delegation at that time. Back to yoga. Those who like to get down on the mat know that setting an intention for yoga practice is key. Judaism believes in the same thing, and during this Hagim, we're asked to set our intentions for the year. And so I want to spend a couple of minutes offering my intentions, the beginnings I want to help make happen, and the projects I hope to collaborate with everyone here. The first, a top priority for me, is the long-delayed building of our Pressman Academy Middle School. Simply put, we are bursting at its seams. Our middle school students need more, deserve more space to grow. The future of learning I outlined cannot happen without this growth. Our new building will include a multi-purpose room to be used from everything from davening, serving meals, a proper assembly space, a watering hole, classrooms, and yes, it is a dream to have a slide in the building too. Overall, the upgraded school will be more amenable to project-based learning and have a feel of openness. We will have another capital campaign, and we will be calling you to support our students to make our dreams our reality. We will need your help, but this is going to be our investment in our children's future for generations to come. I hope you will stand with us. As part of our growth, we will be developing our properties on Corning 7 and 8, either through partnership of an organization or by building a multifamily apartment building. Whatever we end up doing, it will generate additional cash flow for our institution. And this will help offset some potential increases in dues and tuition increases. Another beginning related to power, another beginning related to our buildings is a shift to environmentally sustainable power. To do that, we are planning on installing solar panels at the beginning of this new year. We will bring electric vehicle chargers and explore more energy efficient models with our green team and facilities. On top of what I've said about the incredible work of Dr. Rothblum, Rabbi Matt, and Rabbi Schatz, I do want to acknowledge the multidimensional talents and leadership of Rabbi Cantor Hillary Chorney. She inspires our congregation with your beautiful davening and leads the B'nai Mitzvah programming, ensuring our bar bat mitzvah students are well prepared and well versed in Torah, and connecting our students more broadly as they embark on their Jewish journey. Rabbi Cantor Cherney will help us host the National Cantors Assembly here at Temple Beth Am in November, with a concert celebrating their 75th anniversary in the Gansberg Sanctuary. A big honor, Yasher Koach. Of course, Rabbi Kligfeld. Whose grace and wisdom have been central to our vibrancy and growth at Temple Beth Am. Rabbi, your raw talents, accessible, relational, rabbinical style on this pulpit is a true gift to our community. It is my privilege to announce this evening that during Rabbi Kligfeld's bar mitzvah year, it's his 13th year here, we are planning to honor Rabbi Kligfeld at our spring gala in May. I want to conclude with two short personal reflections. This Thursday, actually in 2 days from now, I am going to be flying back to Hawaii. I'm going to be racing Ironman there. It is going to be my 18th race in Hawaii, 18th Ironman, my high Ironman, and it's actually my fifth time there. I mention this race because it's a metaphor of how I think of leadership and how we can push ourselves individually and collectively to be the best of ourselves. Sometimes it's not a sprint, but a marathon, and it may include a bike and a swim too. Much of racing is acknowledging your mistakes and weaknesses and then recalibrating. In this way, the race is also a metaphor of the spiritual work that we do during these high holidays. We know we will make mistakes this year, but we will keep moving forward, not allowing ourselves to give up. I want to end with a brief story about taking risks and trying out new things that turned out okay. Years ago, I was asked by a Jewish organization I deeply respected if I wanted to host an event in my backyard and make a few opening remarks. I hadn't really done the work to prepare for the event, and I didn't set it in intention for what I had hoped for. My remarks were disorganized, I was flustered, I couldn't put a sentence together, and I never wanted to make a speech again. Still, I thought of the origin of the story, and when I felt so vulnerable being out in public, in conjunction with these high holidays. For the last couple of years, coming together in public has been a risk, and we felt vulnerable being out in the world. I see these high holiday prayers in a different way now, with their emphasis on impermanence and being vulnerable before God. We set out our spiritual intentions before each other, God, and ourselves. I do want to take a brief moment. I want to recall the life of my father-in-law, Howard Pilch, of blessed memory. He was very dear to me and our community. I am saddened he couldn't be here this evening to hear the words that I'm speaking to all of you. I'm not supposed to look at you, Jessica. I know he would be felling that I'm speaking to all of you on this holy occasion. I really feel his presence this evening. When Howard was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, he had only days to live. I asked him if we could raise money for him for medical research. His response to me was, I want you to raise money in honor of me, not in my memory. His intention and his inspiration, perhaps it's my daily inspiration, was and is, we should live in the present, think of the future, not dwell on the past. Let us remember Howard and all of those who we've lost and honor their lives by working towards our future they would have wanted. As we begin this new year, let us live together and enjoy the rebirth of our community. I promise to serve in Howard's honor and to honor the many others who've provided this rich history to Temple Beth Am and our community. Jessica and I want to wish all of you a Gemar Chatima Tova and an easy fast.
Thank you, and Yasher Koach to Mark. And now we're going to rise for Avinu Malkeinu. The ark is opened on page 243.
Avinu Malkeinu chatanu lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu chatanu lefanecha. We'll pick up in the middle of the page and recite each line in bold after Kenar Shorni.
Avinu Malkeinu achazirenu b'shuva shlema lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu achzirenu b'shuva shlema lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu shalach refuah shlema lecholei amecha.
Avinu Malkeinu shalach refuah shlema lecholei amecha.
Avinu Malkeinu zochreinu b'zikaron tov lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu zochreinu b'zikaron tov lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu kodavenu b'sefer chayim tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu kodavenu b'sefer chayim tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu kodavenu b'sefer geula v'yeshua.
Avinu Malkeinu kodavenu b'sefer geula v'yeshua.
Avinu Malkeinu kodavenu b'sefer parnasa v'chalkala.
Avinu Malkeinu kodavenu b'sefer parnasa v'chalkala.
Avinu Malkeinu kodavenu b'sefer zechuyot.
Avinu Malkeinu kodavenu b'sefer zechuyot.
Avinu Malkeinu kodavenu b'sefer slicha u'mechila.
Avinu Malkeinu kodavenu b'sefer slicha u'mechila. Avinu Malkeinu atzmach lanu shabakrov. Malkeinu harim kerish. Avinu Malkeinu salaman tevichim al yichudech. Avinu Malkeinu salaman v'yishamayim.
Avinu Malkeinu aselim manecha imlo lemanenu.
Avinu Malkeinu chaneinu baneinu. Avinu Malkeinu choneinu baneinu ki ein banu masim imanu tzedaka v'chesed imanu tzedaka v'chesed v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu choneinu baneinu. Avinu Malkeinu choneinu baneinu ki ein banu masim imanu tzedaka v'chesed imanu tzedakah v'chesed v'hoshienu. Kaddish Shalem, page 245.
Yitzkata v'yitzkata shmei Rabbi.
Amen.
V'yomadi v'rakirutei v'yomlich malchutei v'chayichon uv'yomeichon uv'chayei techol beit Yisroel b'garba uv'izman kariv v'imeru v'imeru. Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabba Mevarach Le'olam Olamei Almaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'bar V'yitramam V'yitnasei V'yitzhadar V'yitalei V'yitalal Shemei Tekudesh Berichu Le'ela Le'ela Mikol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Damiram Behamna V'meru. Amen. Titz kabal salot tehon, tehon Yisroel, kadam avuhon, divi shmaiha, divi shmaiha, divi shmaiha, v'meru, v'meru. Amen. Yehesh lama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'hakol Yisroel v'meru v'meru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu, aleinu, ve'al Yisroel v'yimeru. Amen.
Aleinu 246, please remain standing.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teitz gedula l'yotzei bereshit, shelo asanu kegoy haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpechot adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol amonam, v'nachnu korei. Lifnei melech, malchi hamelachim, hakadosh baruch. Shir t'shamayim v'yisrael s'mochim karoch. Kagatuv b'toratecha Adonai imlach le'olam va'ed
V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz.
Vayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
May be seated, page 248, the psalm for the high holiday season. David and I read.
David Adonai v'yishmei Chadshafti v'yitz Adonai hotav keshivti v'yitz Lulei emanti lirat b'tuv Adonai b'eretz chayim kavei el Adonai chazak v'yametz libecha v'kavei el Adonai.
Kadisha Tom Mourner's Kaddish, page 247. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabba.
Amen.
V'yalmad yivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomeichon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. V'agala v'izman kari v'yimru amen.
Amen.
Yehi shemei Rabba mevorach le'olam ve'olam maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudusha brichu. Le'ela le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom bin Ramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen.
Amen.
Just a few short announcements, and then one last little piece of something to think about. Tomorrow morning, both the rabbi-led services will begin together at 9 a.m. here for kind of an extended musical harmonic in the round beginning of the service, Psukei Zimra. So myself, Rabbi Chorny, Rabbi Warshawski, and Rabbi Schatz will all be here. One service, library meeting will also be meeting, but the rabbi-led services will start together, and then at the end of the day we will end together. So all of Ne'ilah will be together outdoors. After the morning Psukei Zimra, Rabbi Chorny and I will go inside to lead the service in the sanctuary. I'll be giving my sermon inside tomorrow, the same one that you heard tonight, and Rabbi Schatz will be speaking outside just before Yizkor. And again, Mincha will be, so for Mincha, there'll be a traditional Mincha in the gym with a library minyan, and the rabbi-led Mincha will be a Hama'alot service, will be creative in the round, and not following the traditional liturgy of Mincha, and you can obviously choose whichever you'd like to go to. You can even do a little bit of both if you want. And then we promise to really be on time for shofar blowing at around 7:15. Mark mentioned this. I just want to once mention again that in just a few weeks we'll be having our inaugural Scholar in Residence weekend to celebrate the life and continue to build the legacy of Baruch Link, who passed away about 3 years ago, who was a scholar of Israeli literature. And we're bringing Dorit Rabinyan, who is a well-known and controversial Israeli author, and she'll be with us the whole weekend speaking about her book, and an opportunity to meet her and engage in some close Q&A with her. So look out for specific invitations for Shabbat dinners and things like that. Some of that will be RSVP if there's a meal. Some of it will just be show up and enjoy. I want to share with you pieces of a poem from one of modern Israel's most up-and-coming poets, whose name I had written down somewhere else and is no longer on this page for some reason. It's just think of an Israeli name and it'll I don't know, Yoav Golan or something. I don't know. I don't know his name. I knew his name, but I forgot. I'm just being honest. But it's a great poem. I'll email you the name after Yontif. You don't want that. You have too many emails. But look for it. Okay. I'm going to do parts of it in Hebrew because for those in the space who understand the Hebrew is better than my English translation, and it has a certain lyricism to it. Badelet kfar omeret hashana hachadasha. At the door, the new year is already standing. Im hirak hayta shoelet im yesh li bakasha. If she were just to ask this new year if I had a request. Haiti mistakela be'inayim bli busha. I would look upon her with eyes without shame. Va'az omerla, and I would say to her, the new year, Sha'ani ratzeh liot tipa pachot kasha. I would like to be a little less hard. Tipa pachot kasha, a little less hard. Imatzmi, with myself. Imacherim, with others. Tipa pachot kasha, a little bit less hard. Im mishpacha, with my family. Im chaverim, with friends. Lahafsik litchashben besofa shel kol tkufufa. To stop taking into account the end of every moment. V'gam li mutar lanuach. V'gam li mutar kinuach. I'm permitted to rest. I'm permitted dessert. In Hebrew they rhyme. In English not so much. V'gam li mutar lizkor shezeh beseder lefamim gam lefached. I'm also permitted to remember that it's okay sometimes to be afraid. V'lilmod shecharata hi hizdamnut lihivaled. And to learn that regret is sometimes an opportunity to be reborn. U'leshachrer ta'avar. I'm permitted to release the past. Velishon ad meuchar, and to sleep late. V'lo lamut mikol milah shemishu amar, and not to die from every word that someone says, o lo amar, or didn't say. V'lisloach latzmi kol pam k'tzat yoter, I'm permitted to forgive myself a little more frequently. V'lizrok et hatzipiyot v'lehov et hata'uyot, I'm permitted to jettison expectations and to love mistakes. Harei mikol ta'ut besof rak lamadati ech lichyot, from every error, eventually, I just learned how to live. Ulahavir et kol hayom mul Netflix bli lachshov. Do you know the word Netflix in Hebrew? I'm permitted to pass an entire day in front of Netflix without thinking. V'lachtoch mimi shelo useli tov, and to separate myself from anyone who does me no good. Ulafsik kvar laharim masah shel acharim, and to take a break finally from bearing others' burdens. Yesh li maspik mishel atzmi, v'ze machiv li b'shririm. I have enough of my own, and it hurts my muscles. Badelat kfar omedet hashana charasha, at the door the new year already stands. Behinei hi shoelet, and behold, she's asking me, im yesh li bakasha, do I have a request? Az ani mistakel la be'inayim bli busha, so I look upon her with eyes without shame. Ve'omer la, and I say to her, ani rotzeh liot tipa pachot kasher, I would like to be a little less hard. Ani bocher liot tipa pachot kasher, I choose to be a little less hard. With yourself, with others, when holding your ideas, when learning new ones, when praying, when wondering if prayer is working or even happening, when judging, when loving, do it in a way such that you can say, Ani bocher liot tipa pachot kasher, I am choosing to be a little less hard. We're going to end with Adon Olam or Yigdal? Yigdal, and then Laila Tov.
Some permitted dessert.
Huh?
Unpermitted dessert.
250.
I think you have mine.
I do.
Yigdal Elohim Chai v'yishambach nimsa v'haynet el mitziuto echad v'yachid k'ichudo na'elam v'kam sof li'achduto in lo demut haguf v'yeino guf lo na'roch elav kidushato kadamon lechol davar asher nivra rishon ve'en reshit le'reshito ino adon olam v'chol notzar yorei gedulato u'malchuto shefa nevuato nitano el anshei segulato v'tifarto lo kam liYisrael kemo she'od navi u'navit et emunato Torah temet natan le'amoel ayat nevio neman beito lo yachal lifael velo yamir dato le'olamim lizulaito sofei ve'odea Sitareinu mavit lesof davar bekad mato gomer le'i
mifalo noten lerasha ra kerishato Ishlach leketz yamin Meshichenu liftod mechakeket Yeshuato Neitim Yechayel Berov Chasdo Baruch Adei Ad Shem Tehilato Neitim Yechayel Berov Chasdo Baruch Adei Ad Shem Tehilato. Have a good night, easy fast, and may all your suffering be hormetic.